Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Kageyama, and I'd like to welcome everyone here to Be Your Own Hero. And we're actually recording this on Saturday, the day before Easter. So I just want to wish everyone a very happy Easter. This is going to be put out Tuesday morning. So I hope everybody has a very happy and blessed Easter. And once again, I am so happy. This will be part 3 of my interview with Monique Pate in Italy. And so I'm really, really excited about our topic today. We're going to discuss something that's very, very important. And so what I want to do is I want to bring Monique back on and, just share a little bit about who you are, what you do, and then we'll jump into an incredible topic. Monique, the floor is yours.
Hello, Mark. Hello, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Great. I'm good. I'm really good. So, I am a multiple myeloma survivor. I've been cancer free now for 7 years. Yay! 7 years. And I am also a cancer coach. I'm a post revival coach, and I work with women who are in recovery and need help rebuilding their lives after completing their cancer treatment.
Fantastic, fantastic. And we're going to kind of dive into that more into what your work is. But we've discussed a topic I think that is so important for everyone to hear. And I'd like you to hit it off with what we're discussing. So go ahead, Monique.
So I was sharing with Mark that I was recently approached by a prospective client, and um, and the question that was on her mind was the unknown. And it really hit me because it's something that I believe that we can all resonate is once you've been diagnosed with cancer, you enter that territory of the unknown. And it's frightening. It's very frightening. You don't know, what the treatments are going to be. You don't know what the diagnosis mean. You don't know what stage you're in. And so everything is so fuzzy. And it's that feeling of uncertainty that begins to weigh us down as we're trying to navigate through the acceptance of this actually happening. And so I think that this is a worthy conversation to have. What is that unknown territory that scares us the most? And what can we do to ensure that we keep ourselves from going down the rabbit hole?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it has to do with education, as far as knowing what you're dealing with, because people study for years and years and years to become whatever profession, generally anyway, that they want to be. If they want to be a doctor, they have to go through undergrad, go to medical school, and then if they want to specialize, more schooling. So there's a tremendous amount of time invested in their profession, whether that be a lawyer, accountant, whatever that may be. You put in time, you put in effort, and you've studied that particular endeavor. But when cancer comes, all of a sudden, you have to get educated so that you understand what is going on. So just like any situation, if you understand what you're dealing with, you're so much better off. And so part of it is who actually studies cancer to deal with cancer when they actually get it. Almost nobody. And so all of a sudden you get
Exactly.
cancer you get cancer and you're expected to understand a lot of things. And so what most people do is they just give all the power to their doctor. So go ahead. What do you have to say on that?
Yeah, I one part of it is definitely the education, because you don't, you get a diagnosis, and I mean, I remember when I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, what I heard was melanoma, and I'm thinking, how could I have melanoma? I don't spend a lot of time in the sun, and they're like, no, 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 and I had never heard of multiple myeloma. And so at that point, you get on the internet and you start researching what exactly does that mean. What is the diagnosis? Um, what are the treatments? And so you're relying on this source. But at the same time, while you're looking through the source, then you find other information that can be quite frightening. And it can derail you very, very quickly, because the statistics come out of what are the chances of survival, and your mind just starts going. So one part of it is definitely the education. The other part is um, feeling that you are no longer in control of your life. And that and that is the thing that is constantly played out in your mind, that I've been diagnosed with cancer and I no longer have control of my life, when in reality, we do. We can control how we're going to react. We can control certain aspects, meaning how we're going to take care of ourselves while we're on this journey. And so it's that feeling of losing control that then is that second part that plays into the unknown. So once you're trying to figure out what exactly the diagnosis mean, you get an understanding of the education. Is that then how do you help yourself regain, I would say, some sense of control of what can I do at this moment so that I can be well. And a large part of it has to do um, with the type of mindset that um, you're going to need in order to get through a cancer diagnosis.
So my next question is what is that mindset?
That's a good question, because I have to tell you, when I was in it, it's the feeling of not knowing what my future was going to be was constantly the record that was playing in my head. And we talk about being positive, but it's not really that. It's about having a healthy mindset that becomes so important. And so giving yourself permission to feel whatever it is that you are feeling at that moment, and then thinking, what can I do to feel better? And so it's important that you're not denying, you have a right to grieve. You have a right to uh, mourn what is happening, and that is completely normal. What becomes that turning point is, okay, um, this has happened, what can I do to feel better? And it's moving into that next phase that becomes quite critical, because it's very easy that when you're diagnosed, you can take yourself down that hole, and it's dark, and you can stay stuck in there. And it's that feeling of I don't have control, but you can control how you are going to face and how you're going to deal with the situation one step at a time. And that is something that you can certainly take control of.
I think what's interesting is would you what are your perspectives on this? Everybody is different. So I think we all hold on to the person that we were before cancer. You know, we want to hold on to that and hold on to our identity. What is the most important thing to do as an individual, mindset wise, once you do get that diagnosis? How should a person react? How should a person set their mind? And do you think that's important?
Yes, I do. I think the first thing is acknowledging what is happening at the moment, and that is crucial. Um, and I can only, like I said, I can every person's cancer experience is so different. That first initial reaction, my first initial reaction was certainly one of this can't possibly be happening to me, and I think that that tends to be quite common. That feeling of, did they get this right? And so, is this really happening? And so, that is the first step, and acknowledging is so important because I think there's a moment where you come into a new relationship with yourself. And I think you pointed out very, very nicely, there was this before cancer, and then you're in it. And so your relationship with yourself completely shifts. And then there's that aftermath, once you finish uh, your cancer journey or experience, you're no longer that person you were at the beginning. And you're no longer that person that you were in the midst of it. And so it's, you're working through these layers and you're working through these phases, and your mind is also processing everything that's happening. So, whether a person finds himself becoming more spiritual at that point, whether a person really steps back and looks at what their life was before, and and what they'd like their life to be after. Your mind is constantly working through that process, and the key is finding a moment where you can be completely silent with yourself. And it's through that silence, whether it's meditation, whether it's going out for a walk in nature, whether you believe in God or you don't, it's that moment where you come into contact with yourself. And through the contact with yourself is where you become as present as possible. And I think that one of the things that cancer has taught me, and I think teaches many, is to be present, because there is nothing else, and we all say it, there's nothing else. There's no past and there's no future, but all that exists is that moment. And so it's, and in that moment is where you will have the best relationship with yourself, or you won't. And that relationship with yourself, or with God, or like I said, or with nature, is going to help you get through the cancer experience.
I love your introspection about that. So my next thought is, and this was big for me, was reconciling
Mhm.
that person that I see in the mirror in the morning.
Mhm.
And I think that is so, so, so important.
Mhm.
Um, looking and realizing that today, as I look in the mirror, that person that I was before cancer is now different, and being able to accept limitations, accept liabilities, and be okay with that.
Mhm.
And that's we're basically, I know, saying the same thing.
Yeah.
But I just, it's always that look in that mirror when I was at my worst, and looking and saying, I'm okay with who I see today.
Mm-hmm. And that's very powerful. Uh, I mean, I can share a similar experience. That reflection in the mirror, and I remember a moment in the hospital where I'm looking at myself and I'm saying, how did I end up here? How did how do I get myself out of this? And there was a moment where I was having this dialogue with myself and just forgiving myself, because that moment I was just kind of like, how could I have done this to myself? How could I have gotten myself sick? And how could, and it was just one of those moments where I just kind of stopped and looked at myself with my, eyes puffy and said, I love you, Monique, and I forgive you. And so it became that turning point where it's okay, we're going to get through this together, and it's that self dialogue. And so we tend to live in a place where, and when we talk about our our unhealthy thoughts, we live in this place where it's like I must and I should have done this, and I will, and a lot of that is just a lot of pressure, because we put a lot of expectations and we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. And so part of the shift that I had to learn, and it's not something that happened immediately, but it was a work in progress internally, was shifting my thinking to more of a place of, I give myself permission. I can, and even shifting, those words makes such a difference in terms of how I speak to myself now. If I'm having an off day, it's like, we're having an off day and it's okay. What would you like to do? Instead of before it would have been like, oh my God, you're having an off day, pull yourself together. And so oftentimes we put a lot of pressure on ourselves and expect ourselves to behave in a certain way in a very difficult time, and oftentimes I believe we do it with the intentions of giving ourselves that strength to get through it. But sometimes just being kind, is what we really need to be with ourselves as we work through the process of dealing uh, with cancer.
I think one of the things for me that helped me was I didn't look back. I was always looking at today or tomorrow. And, we can't change yesterday, but we can affect today and we can affect tomorrow. How important do you think that is for this place and time that we're talking about? Just got diagnosed. How important is that for the cancer patient?
It's crucial. It's crucial because sometimes when we start looking at the past, we it falls into that blame factor, like I didn't eat healthy enough, and I should have gotten out of that relationship. And I think that the moment that you are aware or you're conscious of the fact that there may be factors, it can be, it can be the environment, it could have been a stressful situation at a workplace, there are all these factors that are real. And so I believe that in the moment that you can accept and acknowledge that maybe those factors did play an impact, uh, then in that moment, and it's like I said, it's not something that happens like that, but the fact that you're conscious of it and you're aware of it can help you then take the necessary steps to move forward from then on. And again, in the moment that you're diagnosed, you fall into that fight and flight momentum. And that is, and that's where that's kind of what drives you is, you almost feel like you're entering a battlefield. And so why it's important to to be present is that we have no idea, what the future will bring. But if we can stay present, being present will help us take the next step and the next step and the next step to move forward. And I'm going to be honest. I mean, of course, when I was in it, I was just like, woo, very zen on the outside, but my mind was constantly thinking, and my mind was thinking from a place of, okay, what is it that I need to take care of? What are those things that I need to do to be a better person, to get myself to a better place? What are those, what is the baggage that I'm carrying? Because oftentimes those things do weigh you down. What is the baggage that I'm carrying that I need to free myself from? And that's what my journey became. My journey became a very spiritual trip internally to let go of things that I was carrying from my past, to start living from a place of greater peace and living in a place from the present. And so, if there's anything that came out of it for me in this cancer journey, is appreciating my time and appreciating where I'm at and being patient, being very patient with myself. So each person's journey is just so different. And I remember one of my friends saying, which is true. She says, if you can look and if you can live what's happening to you at the moment as an opportunity, it will help you get to a better place internally.
That's great advice. Absolutely great advice.
That was, yeah.
So let's talk more about what you do, what experiences that you've had, and how you help these people get their lives back post cancer.
So one of the processes that we look through, and I would say definitely it's that step of self-discovery, is reconnecting with yourself. And I think you summed it up really nicely. So, you have this identity, and your identity, by the time you are in the recovery phase, your identity is completely shifted. And sometimes you don't even know yourself, because you've gone through this transformation. So certainly an aspect of the work with my clients is that we go on this journey together. And what's so beautiful about it is that oftentimes those things that you perhaps had ignored or neglected, like writing or painting, um, or spending more time with your family, all of it begins to come together, and you start to see your life in a very different light. And so one aspect is certainly that reconnection with self, and finding that you have an inner wisdom or an inner spirituality that has helped you get through your cancer journey. So that's one aspect that we work on. The other aspect is looking at what you're eating and what are the changes that you need to make, or what changes are you prepared to make to improve that aspect of your life. And so we talk about, I'm not a dietitian, but certainly know enough to be able to help someone who has gone through it and look at, what are some things that you uh, need to incorporate in your diet. What are those changes? What are those modifications that you're prepared to make at this point? And it has to, we can, talk about, what kind of diet you need until you're blue in the face. But at the end of the day, it's not just a diet, it's a lifestyle. And so it's making that decision of what are those changes that I'm prepared to make in order to improve the quality of my life. And, we're talking about sleep and, relationship with others. And then the final part is setting a plan for your future. What is it that you want to find yourself doing? And like I said, it's interesting during that process that that many of the women that I've worked with, they've come back to things that they had let go or they've forgotten, and they find themselves reconnecting with that or discovering something completely new. And so once we've completed, or once we've come full circle, they come through the process a different. I mean, they're completely transformed, and they're living a life with greater peace, greater serenity. We certainly talk about, healthier thoughts. We work through the process of mind shift because that's really important. And really finding greater gratitude and joy in life. And that, shifting that whole energy really helps them fly and flourish afterwards.
That is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. That's what it's all about. I mean, if you go through a cancer journey or any major health crisis, if you're not a different person afterwards, then you didn't learn, you missed the lesson of the journey.
Yeah.
There's no
Absolutely.
doubt about it. I think there are a lot of things that we can learn from going through adversity. You learn who you are really, and
Yeah.
I think learning who you really are is so important, uh, because are you going to be happy with who you are? Are you going to hold on to things that you were clinging to pre-cancer? Are you still holding on to those things?
Yeah.
And the mindset, you know, we're talking about growth, and growth
Yeah.
is so important. Uh, and it could be in a lot of different areas, or it could just be in one area. Everybody's different. And that's, let's talk about one final subject. And I always love talking to you. You know that, um, because I think we're always on the same page, and I really really enjoy our conversation. So thank you, Monique. But let's talk about other people, family and friends, how they come into the picture involving your diagnosis.
So I would say that I mean, I've got my friends and my family in mind, and I smile as I say this because also for them, and oftentimes I think um, we don't realize how important their care is, not only towards us, but also how important it is for them to take care of themselves through this process as well. It's so easy, I believe, for a caregiver to lose themselves as they're trying to support their loved ones. And I'm thinking of my two friends who basically team tagged, and then my parents when we came, and we had talked about that in the first and the second part. But it's really important also, I think, for them that there is a support that helps them on their journey, because they also go through a transformation in the process of supporting someone who has cancer. And so to completely ignore what they could be feeling and the identity that also changes through that process. I mean, they're not the same people they were when their loved one was diagnosed. And so that whole experience, I believe, as well, becomes crucial that anyone who's a caregiver needs to make sure that they're taking set care of themselves. Because in order to be of service to somebody else, it's important that look after yourself as well. And so um, I'm always grateful for my friends and my family who um, helped me get through this, because without them, I certainly would not be where I'm at today.
Oh, and likewise, I so many people, and I'm so grateful to all the people, family, friends. I mean, even little things meant so much.
Mhm.
A phone call or uh, I got cards and I got like little gifts and things like that. That means so much because it tells you that somebody cares about you and they're
Mhm.
thinking about you. And what's interesting is the onslaught at the beginning,
Yeah.
it's just so amazing. And as time goes on, how that changes. It's like, oh, he's okay now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think once you've gone through it, everybody's like, okay, back to normal.
Right.
But the reality is, and this is why I dedicate and want to work with that end part, because once you into recovery, you're exhausted. You're exhausted, and it's challenging, and I can just visualize my experience, but also when my clients come to me, um, they're drained, and they're trying to pick up the pieces of their lives, and they're worried about reoccurrence happening. They're trying to figure out what's the best way for them to move forward from that point on. And it's not easy, when like you had shared, once you're done, it's like, your caregivers are like, "Woo, okay, back to normal." But your mind and your energy isn't there, because you're still processing the aftermath. And then if you're on medication, you have to work through the side effects. If there are any financial issues going on, so there's a load that happens after you enter the survivorship phase that sometimes gets overlooked, whether it's the people that support you or the person who's in the midst of it.
Absolutely. Monique, do you have any final thoughts to give everyone? I just really enjoyed this conversation because it brings to light, important things that nobody ever thinks about during a cancer journey. So, do you have any final thoughts?
Yes, my final thought would be, for anyone who you find yourself feeling that you're in the dark, you're not alone. Um, there are people out there who are more than willing to give you a hand, whether it's a support group. LinkedIn has been absolutely fantastic. And if you are in that state of you feel that you're losing control, remember, the moment that you make any kind of decision, you're in control. And so my prayer, I would say my prayer is um, to really trust that whatever is happening to you at this moment, that you have the inner wisdom and you have the inner strength to get through it. And you and I are testimonials, a testimony to that. And And so, yeah, my wish is that to really connect with, see this as an opportunity to really connect with yourself and know that you're not alone.
That is awesome, Monique. Thank you so much for your time and your knowledge. And I love the subjects that we talked about today, because there are subjects that are not talked about, and there's so much to this cancer journey. And thank you for being a great advocate for cancer patients and survivors, and helping people, because that's what this is all about. And I hope you have a very, very happy Easter, you and your family. And
Thank
look at that
you. Thank
smile.
you.
That is the greatest smile. I mean, it
Thank you,
absolutely
Mark.
awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been absolutely fun. It has been such a pleasure and a blessing to have met you. So I wish you also a happy Easter, and I look forward to being in touch.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Monique. And so at this time, I'd like to share a couple of positive quotes. These are from Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. The first one is, two great forces operate in the mind: fear and faith. Fear is very powerful, but faith is more powerful. And the second one is, every night, empty your mind of unhappy thoughts as you empty your pockets and come alive. So thanks everyone for joining us here at the Be Your Own Hero, and make the most out of every single day, every single hour, every single minute, and every single breath. Your health really is everything. And so live life, don't be afraid to live, and come together. And uh, one of the things that I really, really appreciate now after COVID is getting together with people, get together with the people that you love, and tell them in person. Zoom is great. It's a something that probably arose out of COVID, but get back to the old fashioned way of getting together in person. And with that, hopefully everyone had a happy Easter, and make the most of your week, make the most of every day, and be blessed, everyone. And we will see you next week on To Be Your Own Hero. We'll see you next week. Thank you.